Smart 24, driving business.
A very warm welcome back, and thank you so much for staying tuned. This is Smart 24 TV, and we mean business 24 hours, 7 days a week. Today we are having a comprehensive look at the retirement sector, the retirement benefits sector, and I'm with none other than officials from UBRA, the Uganda Retirement Benefits Regulatory Authority. Now, Madam Lydia, we've just broken down your journey, and it looks really brilliant. And now people would want to know a little bit more about the detail when it comes to the saving and planning strategies. Yes, NSSF is there, and yes, there are quite a number of institutions that have been able to embrace this forced saving, which later on is actually appreciated much more. But I understand UBRA has been able to expand now to over 64 pension schemes, and quite a number of options are out there. So we are no longer limited to NSSF, so you have no excuse. So tell us about what strategies, especially looking at young people today who seem not to look at retirement as a thing. I think they have just started life, me inclusive, and we want to enjoy everything. We don't want to save anything for retirement. Talk about the strategy of planning. What plan can you have for your saving, depending on even on your income? Because I understand many of the viewers here, some of them don't earn 10 million, they don't earn 5 million, but they understand that sometimes they must save for retirement. What strategy does work, and for all the different particular categories of people that we have?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anthony. I think with retirement planning and saving, the most important thing is to have the right attitude. If you don't have the right attitude, you don't have the right culture. And if you don't have the right culture, you don't have the right practice.
Yeah.
So let's start with addressing our attitudes. Do we appreciate the importance of saving and planning for retirement? If you appreciate that, then you see yourself acting in an appropriate manner. So first of all, I encourage, especially the youth, as you mentioned, to develop the right attitude and appreciate that it's very important to plan for one's retirement. Why? Everyone that's born is a candidate of retirement. Because once you are born and you're living your normal life, that means you're growing from stage of infancy through youthfulness, through adulthood, and then old age, if everything remains constant. And in fact, I know a lot of us wouldn't really like to die young. Many of us say, I would rather wait, and I need to see my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. No one wants to go early. But if you don't want to go early, it means that you actually want to be here until you're 80 or 90. But the question is, when you have ended your youthfulness and you're no longer very energetic, you cannot exert the same yourself the same way you used to when you were younger and more energetic and more productive, where will you go? What will be your source of income? How will you lead your life? So you need to understand that things from that perspective, that a time is coming when you will truly be unable to exert yourself. You will not be productive, you will not be very energetic, you will be old, or you will be disabled in one way or another because of the many things that life throws at us. At that point in time, when you think and appreciate life and from that perspective, then you appreciate retirement planning. So then what strategies do you develop? As a youth, we always say start planning and saving for your retirement as soon as you start earning. Many people in Uganda start working when they're very young. Regularly, when people finish university and they go get a job, maybe they're 23 or 24 or even younger, sometimes older, but mostly around that age. This is prime age. You're very energetic. God has blessed you with an income. Start saving. Every earning that you make, just know that there's that age coming. So put aside a portion for that age. So first of all, starting early. That is a good strategy. When you start early, it means that you have a longer period to save and invest.
Yeah.
If you start at age 25 or age 20, by the time you reach 50 or 55 and you're starting to look at your retirement age, imagine how many years you would have worked for, and if you have been saving, how many years you'd have saved for. Now, when you start early, be consistent. Be consistent. Decide that I'm going to put a portion every month towards my retirement, a portion of my income.
But you see, the economy, you see, this is the problem most people say. When I put aside, I'm already putting aside for school fees, I'm putting aside. And some people say, I want to enjoy myself as well. My life is going to be all about savings. And so you realize the mindset sometimes comes from the conditions, the economic conditions. So in the hard times like the ones we are in currently, I don't think the economy has gone anywhere yet.
And it won't get any better. There has never been a time in this world when the economy was ideal.
Are there percentages you would recommend?
Thank you. So that's why I said a portion. I did not say that take the whole earning of the month and put it in your retirement saving plan. Take a portion. If you have earned 10,000 shillings a day, apportion it. Apportion a percentage to retirement, a percentage to emergencies, a percentage to donations and charity, a percentage to entertainment, a percentage to living expenses and
are we still
food.
talking about 10,000?
Well, yes, because even 10,000 has a percentage. Maybe 500 shillings. Let me tell you, when you start small and you remain consistent over a long period of time, you'd be amazed. If you started with 500 shillings this month or this week, next week you'll have 1,000. The other week, by the end of the month, you'll have 2,000. If 2,000 shillings is invested, it can bring an interest, doesn't it? So we're talking about percentages of whatever you earn, and whatever little you earn, just have that discipline, cultivate that discipline. They say that if you don't have the discipline to save when you have 10,000, even if you earn 1 billion, you will still not have the discipline. Money is strange. It smells, I don't know whether it's money smells problems or problems smell money. Every time you earn more money, more problems come into your life.
That's true.
So you better cultivate that discipline right now. That's why I said that first of all, you have to develop the right attitude, the right mindset. Even if you earn very little, you'll be amazed how much people save and what they have been able to do with it. So the strategy is start small. Don't wait until you have so much money. Start small, be consistent, and be patient. Invest and be patient and allow your money to grow. That is, I think, the greatest strategy, or those are the principles of the strategy that you need to adopt.
Wow, thank you so much, Ms. Lydia. I'll come to you, Mr. Lotuke. Now, we've just had Ms. Mirembe's perspective, and you hear her saying, this amount of money you get, no matter how small it is, always apportion it. But fiscal discipline is quite something people have to practice, especially when it comes to Uganda. That's why when it comes to the forced saving, and I believe if NSSF could do it without you actually looking at it, definitely you can do it on a personal level. But talking about strategy and the plan, what age do you think someone should actually start thinking about saving for retirement? In as far as especially the informal sector is concerned, like you said, you're trying to reach out more to the informal sector. The formal sector is kind of organized, and you have a salary scale, you have someone who can actually take off that money. But now, when you are in the informal sector, sometimes you don't have that leverage. So what do you do in those cases? When is it the right time to start, and what amount do you think you can apportion? Already, I've seen a comment on social media, and that's from one of our viewers here. I think he's asking just a similar question. How much money should someone aim to save for retirement, and how can they determine that amount? Are there formulas, are there scales that you can actually apply to this?
Okay, thank you. the time and how much.
Yeah.
So the time and how much, you first need to understand why you need to save for retirement. What are your interests? Why do you want to save for retirement? First of all, if you look at, if you want to, one of your reasons is to smoothen consumption, that at the age where you are now, you spend such amount of income. These are your requirements. So you are saying, when I retire, I want to be able to live the same kind of life. So that will give you one of the starting points, because you'll be able to tell that within this number of years, inflation would have gone by this. If I save this much, it should be able to give me the same kind of, it can buy me the same amount of goods or whatever you want your life to be. Mm-hmm. So also, people save for different reasons. So you start with the reasons. Now, based on the reasons, you'll be able to project. Of course, the age and time, as Lydia already said, the time is as soon as you get your first income. Mm-hmm. And in terms of how much, there is something called compounding, okay, which is always the best friend. So the longer the time, compounding will always give you the best results. Yeah. So however little the amount you start with, so long as it is over a long period of time and it is earning, if you're not hiding it somewhere in under the mattress, you're investing it, it's bound to increase with interest. And you're saving it, of course, with a secure, you're putting it in a secure investment or with a licensed retirement benefit scheme. Because some people also decide to join any schemes that they hear about. Some of them could be scammers, and so you need to also ensure that you're investing in a licensed entity.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Lotuke, also talking about investment, one of the things that holds back people from actually getting to save, especially with these pension schemes, is first of all, they don't understand how this money is put to use. I understand NSSF has a very clear outline of how they spend this money. They invest mainly in 4 asset classes. That's treasury bonds and bills. They do invest in stocks. They invest in real estate. And we've seen those houses now for NSSF. But is this a blueprint for all the pension schemes, that they have these asset classes, or actually it can be customized for different pension schemes? Because some people don't even understand that there is a return on this investment. And this money is not, you're not going to withdraw exactly the same money that you put in. So what are some strategies that these fund managers, these pension schemes put in place to see that they actually have a return on the savings of the people that are saving with them?
Thank you. To start with, retirement benefit schemes, generally by their nature, are such that it's known that the beneficiaries of these retirement benefit schemes do not necessarily know how to manage their money. So it is collected into one arrangement, which is termed now retirement benefit schemes, and it's that one arrangement that is provided with professionals to manage, right from records to investments. So in terms of Ugandan structure, we have basically 3 main service providers. The administrators, these are the ones which keep records, accounts, membership details and everything. And then we have a custodian who keeps all the assets.
Who are the administrators? Can you give examples? Or are they banks? Are they
not necessarily banks. Administrator can be any company that qualifies. Okay. There's a criteria that we use to assess an administrator. Okay. Since I've said they keep account, they maintain accounts and keep records, obviously it means there must be a company in that line of business of keeping financial records and everything. And then a custodian, that one is a commercial bank, licensed by the central bank, but also having the capacity to do custodial work. So there's also a criteria for determining not all banks can do that function. Then there is a fund manager. Those are now the ones responsible for investing. So generally, the arrangement of retirement benefit schemes is such that from their origin was that people would put resources and give to the ones they would trust to manage for them. So that's why we have the key fiduciary responsibility of the retirement benefit scheme is on people we call trustees, or entities called trustees. They are the legal owners of the scheme. They manage this scheme on behalf of members, because members are everyone from anywhere. So you're not expected as a member of the scheme to know investments, to know accounting, to know, no, there are already structures to manage your money. So that what we only do is make sure that those service providers who have the responsibility and the trustees who have the fiduciary duty are actually investing in scheme funds, maintaining member records, because also maintaining a record is very, very important. Imagine if you're contributing for 1 year, and after 1 year they tell you you've contributed only 6 months when you contributed 12. So that alone can put people off. So start right from records and investments. All those are regulated. That's why each of those is regulated, because they are critical in the process of managing retirement benefit schemes. So as a member, you do not have to worry of being an expert in any of those fields. Your work is just to contribute and watch your money grow.
Yeah, wow, interesting. Ms. Lydia, I'll come back to you about what recently happened to us as a country, as a world. We were hit by COVID-19, and this was at a time when investments were growing and the pension schemes were doing quite well. NSSF was returning one of its highest interest rates ever, and things didn't go so well. In cases where we have such, and you have the investments of all these pensioners, if I may call them, in this boat, and they have invested in certain asset classes, and things don't work out. Are there ways to actually give affirmation to the pensioners that their money is safe and that they don't incur the losses in case they do happen? Because these are risky investments. We are talking about stocks, we are talking about, besides, of course, the treasury bonds and stuff. What do you think can be done to protect these investments, especially for the pensioners?
Pension funds operate in exactly the same economy as all other investments. So whatever hits the economy also hits pension funds. So if COVID-19 came and destabilized the global economy as it did, you cannot expect that pension funds would be insulated from the effects of such trends. So pension funds are just as vulnerable as all other funds and arrangements in the economy. What we must do is to always be on the alert, number one, to know what's happening around us as Ugandans. What's happening around us? What might it bring along? How are we prepared to, insulate ourselves against it? And that's the whole reason why we in the pension fund look far ahead, or pension sector look far ahead. We invest in long-term instruments. We try very much to operate in such a way that risks are limited and the return on investment is guaranteed to the best extent possible. And that's why there's a variety of investment options. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. So if things don't perform very well in one area, they definitely may perform better in another area. So each scheme has in its investment policy the different asset classes where it invests. And actually, as UBRA, we encourage that diversification of investments so that eggs are not invested in one basket. Yeah. So while we may not have assurances that there will never be such circumstances as COVID-19 or that we will never be affected by global trends, at least to the greatest extent possible, that diversification in terms of investment can protect funds to the greatest extent possible. Yeah. But also, we just need to be aware that we are part of the global economy. Yeah. Nowadays, everyone has the same excuse that, the war in Ukraine and Russia, COVID-19, prices of fuel going up. We all have the same excuses, pension funds and others. Yeah. So we operate in the same economy, but we need, when we are making our investment decisions, to weigh the risk and try to diversify as much as possible so that we are not completely vulnerable. Yeah.
Yes. According to your newsletter, I'll take this to Mr. Lotke. There was an increase in, for example, the assets under management. There was an increase in the pension funds that were actually collected, and interest rates as well. That was recently in your annual report for 2022. And you're saying in this report that the assets grew from 17.8 trillion from 2020-2021 to at least a tune of 19.9 trillion, accounting for 12.2% of the gross domestic product of Uganda, which currently stands at least 160 trillion, if my math still serves me right. Now, talk about, first of all, this is a lot of money. That's number one. And it can influence a lot in any economy, especially a developing or growing economy like that of Uganda. How do you ensure that these funds do not actually rub off certain effects or ripple effects, especially in terms of investments? For example, in the treasury bond market, when you have treasury bonds and you have so many of them listed, and you have these pension funds actually getting to take away most of the percentage, sometimes there's crowding out of the private sector, and this negatively impacts some of the people or the players you're actually trying to save during their retirement. How do you manage some of these dynamics when it comes to investment? How do you prudently ensure there's prudential investment of these funds so that you don't have these ripple effects sometimes coming off the investments into the economy?
Thank you. Thank you. I think I will start from the point that Lydia was explaining. You talked about the effects of COVID and how the rates came down. Of course, as already highlighted, in the retirement benefit sector in Uganda, the OBRA Act and regulations have already prescribed the asset classes that pension funds can invest in. The idea is that when we look at pension funds, we must ensure that during their investments, priority number one, that capital is preserved at all times. Then after ensuring that the capital is preserved, then try to find out the different combination of asset classes that can give members a decent return. So as far as COVID is concerned, you'll realize that the pension sector was one of the most resilient, if not the most resilient in our, during those 2 years of COVID impact, whereby all schemes still managed to return to get a return above inflation. Even the NSSF managed to return just below 10, despite all the negativities, unlike some sectors which completely went to negatives.
Yeah.
So that means in terms of the selection of the assets, in terms of what we require the fund managers to do, they understand their job in terms of ensuring that the capital of members is preserved, but also a decent return is realized. Yeah. So that still links now to the question you have asked about ensuring that the funds do not destabilize the financial sector. And as I said in the beginning, of course, the retirement benefit sector is part of the financial sector in general, and it operates in the financial sector. And as a regulator, we are very cognizant of that. And also one of the functions of OBRA is to actually to ensure stability in the financial sector. And that's why OBRA is a member of the Financial Sector Stability Forum in Uganda. So we make sure that there are no such effects as maybe one entity being able to destabilize the financial sector in one way or the other. So the investments are spread, and basically they are spread according to the assets that you already named, the government bonds, equities, deposits in banks. Yeah, just like any other investments. Only that we have set caps in those assets, and the motive of setting those caps is what I've said already, ensure that the assets are preserved, but also earn a decent return for members.
Yeah. Wow, very interesting. And before we go into the break, Mr. Lotuke, would you give maybe a word of advice? What would it look like if people were actually not saving? When you look at the retirement schemes, what do you think would happen to all that money? Because at the end of the day, some people feel they have better control of their money. They feel like the pension schemes are taking control and they're trying to control the economy, trying to control What do you think would go out of hand if at all we didn't have these pension schemes?
I think what would go out of hand is where we started from, why save for retirement. At that point, maybe when you're still working, you may not realize that anything can go wrong. But as you get into retirement, most times the only guaranteed source of income is retirement income, especially if it is a pension. You may have all the other investments, and by the most people, even when they get lump sums, what is common is that most investments are either done in agriculture or real estate. But the income in each of these two may not be guaranteed for one reason or another. If a drought comes, or if anything happens, either a drought or a flood, or if you've built somewhere where there's no market, 3-4 months there are no tenants in your building or whatever structure you're put in. But the only guaranteed income at retirement is a pension sector. And also the needs, the financial needs at retirement, someone at retirement needs more of cash than just assets. So at retirement, we always say you have to be cash. You have to have more cash, not just assets. Because there are some people you can have all the assets, but they may not generate you the cash at the point when you want. If you want to go for treatment this very hour, you may be having there a building which cannot give you the money at that very hour when you need it. So there is need to ensure that there is that portion which you're sure to give you cash at retirement.
Wow, thank you so much for those wonderful insights. We're taking another break. We return. Miss Lydia, when we return, we want to talk about some of the things that have changed in the, in the savings. You see, back then there was no access to the funds until you were, is it 55? I don't remember the exact figures, but you're going to help me with that. What has changed? There's a new regulation in the UBRA Act, that is that people can access 50% of their savings to use as collateral in order to access mortgages. You're going to tell us about that as well, but also the benefits that come before the age. How can some people are always, worried about, can I withdraw this money before that ultimatum age with which I must withdraw? And of course, more in that line. My name is Anthony. You're watching Smart 24 TV. This is The Point. Stay with us. We return shortly.
Smart 24, driving business.